The dress was a dare. A stupid, reckless whim born from too much cheap wine and a rainy New York night. I stood in front of the mirror, the crimson fabric clinging to my frame, and laughed because what else could I do when my reflection looked like a stranger? But when my roommates walked in and froze, their eyes wide and words caught in their throats, I realized I'd stumbled into something far bigger than a prank. My name's Elliot Kane, a 24-year-old art student scraping by in a cramped Brooklyn apartment with 3 other guys. Theo, the brooding musician with a voice like velvet. Marcus, the charming law student who could talk his way out of anything. And Jamie, the quiet coder whose shy smiles had a sharp wit. We'd been roommates for 2 years. A makeshift family bound by late-night pizza runs and shared dreams of making it big in the city. That night, though, everything changed. It started as a game. Theo had been strumming his guitar, humming a melody that felt like it could break your heart, when Marcus, ever the instigator, tossed a bottle cap at me. "Elliot, you're too predictable," he teased, his grin sharp. "Bet you wouldn't wear that dress Jamie's sister left here last month." Jamie, usually silent during our antics, looked up from his laptop, his cheeks faintly pink. "Don't drag me into this," he muttered, but his eyes flickered to me. Curious. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe it was the wine, or the way Theo's music made the air feel alive, or the glint in Marcus's eyes daring me to break out of my shell. The dress was a deep red, soft and flowing, left behind by Jamie's sister after a weekend visit. I slipped it on in my room, laughing at the absurdity, and stepped out to face them. The room went silent. Theo's guitar strings twanged as his fingers slipped. Marcus's smirk vanished, replaced by something unreadable. Jamie's laptop slid off his lap, his mouth slightly open. "Holy shit. Elliot," Marcus breathed, his voice low. You look good." Theo set his guitar down, his dark eyes locked on me. "You're not just pulling it off. You're something else." Jamie said nothing, but his gaze was heavy, like he was seeing me for the first time. I laughed it off, twirling dramatically to break the tension. But the air had shifted. It was like I'd cracked open a door I didn't know existed. And now none of us could look away. The next morning, I thought it'd be forgotten, a funny story we'd laugh about over coffee. But Marcus was different. He lingered by the kitchen counter. His usual swagger softened as he handed me a mug. "You know," he said, his voice casual but deliberate, "last night was unexpected. You ever think about, I don't know, exploring that side of you?" I froze, coffee burning my tongue. It was a joke. "Marcus, a dare." He shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave mine. "Sure, but you look like you belonged in that dress. Like it was you." Before I could respond, Theo walked in, his hair still messy from sleep. He glanced between us, his jaw tight. "What's this about the dress?" he asked, his tone sharper than usual. "Nothing," I said quickly, but Marcus smirked, leaning closer. "Just saying Elliot's got layers we didn't know about." Theo's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought he might say something cutting. Instead, he grabbed his coffee and left, slamming the door behind him. I stared after him, confused. Theo was intense. Sure, but this felt personal. That afternoon, Jamie caught me alone in the living room. He was fidgeting, his usual calm replaced by nervous energy. "Elliot," he started, his voice soft. "Last night, I couldn't stop thinking about you. In that dress." It wasn't just the dress, though. It was you. My heart stuttered. Jamie, who barely spoke unless it was about code or coffee, was looking at me like I was the only thing in the room. "Jamie, I'm not good at this," He interrupted, his cheeks red. But I've liked you for a while. And last night, it just hit me harder. I didn't know what to say. Jamie's confession was like a spark in dry grass, and I could feel the fire starting to spread. I mumbled something about needing to study and fled to my room, my mind racing. What the hell was happening? It was just a dress. A stupid prank. But now Marcus was acting weird. Theo was pissed. And Jamie quiet. Sweet Jamie was laying his heart bare. Over the next few days, the apartment became a minefield. Marcus flirted openly, dropping compliments that felt too serious to be his usual charm. Theo grew quieter, his music darker, but he'd watch me when he thought I wasn't looking. Jamie, meanwhile, started leaving me little note sketches of me in the dress, folded into my sketchbooks, with shy messages like, "You're beautiful." I didn't know how to handle it. I'd always been the laid-back one, the guy who drew comics and cracked jokes to keep the peace. But now I was at the center of something I didn't understand. The dress was still in my closet, and every time I passed it, I felt a strange pull. It wasn't just about the fabric or the way it looked. It was about how I'd felt wearing it free. Bold. Like I was someone new. One night, I couldn't sleep. I slipped the dress on again, just to see if it was a fluke. The mirror showed the same stranger. But this time, I didn't laugh. I felt right. Like I'd been hiding a part of myself. Even from me. That's when Theo knocked on my door. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, his eyes tracing the lines of the dress. "You're doing it again," he said finally, his voice rough. "Why?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It feels good." He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. "You're killing me, Elliot," he whispered. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you I'm in love with you for months. And now you're standing there, looking like that, and I can't think straight." My breath caught. Theo, with his stormy eyes and songs that broke my heart, was in love with me. Before I could respond, the door creaked open, and Marcus was there, his face a mix of shock and something darker. "Seriously, Theo," he snapped. "You're making a move now?" Theo turned, his fists clenched. "Back off, Marcus. This isn't your game." "It's not a game." Marcus shot back, his voice rising. "You think you're the only one who feels something." I stood frozen, the dress swishing against my legs. As my two roommates faced off, their words sharp and raw. Jamie appeared in the doorway, his eyes wide. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice trembling. And just like that, the spark became a wildfire. The apartment was a pressure cooker, and I was the one turning up the heat without meaning to. Theo and Marcus stood inches apart, their voices low but venomous, while Jamie hovered in the doorway, his eyes darting between them and me. I wanted to disappear, to rip off the dress and pretend none of this had happened. But the truth was clawing its way out. I couldn't go back. "Stop it, both of you," I shouted, my voice cracking. The room fell silent, and 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. I felt exposed, the dress suddenly too tight. But I pushed through. "This isn't about you fighting over me like I'm some trophy. I'm trying to figure myself out. Okay? So just stop." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, his charm replaced by something raw. "Elliot, I'm not fighting for fun. I see you really see you. And I'm not backing down because Theo's got a crush." Theo's laugh was bitter. "A crush? You think that's what this is? I've been writing songs about him for a year. Marcus, you're just jumping in because he looks good in a dress." "That's not true," Marcus snapped, stepping closer to Theo. For a moment, I thought they'd come to blows. But Jamie stepped between them. his quiet presence somehow commanding. "Enough," Jamie said, his voice steady despite the flush on his cheeks. "Elliot's right. This isn't about us. It's about him." He turned to me, his eyes soft but intense. "Whatever you're feeling, whatever this means to you, we're here. Or at least, I am." I didn't know what to say. The air was thick with tension, but Jamie's words cut through, grounding me. I looked at them, Theo with his clenched jaw, Marcus with his defiant stare, Jamie with his quiet strength, and realized I was the one who'd started this. Not just the dress, but the way I'd let myself shine in it. The way I'd let them see a part of me I hadn't even understood. "I need time," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what I am right now. And I can't deal with you all tearing each other apart." They didn't argue, but the silence was heavy. Theo left first, grabbing his guitar and heading for the roof. Marcus lingered, his eyes searching mine, before he muttered something about needing air and walked out. Jamie stayed, sitting on the edge of my bed, his hands clasped tightly. "You don't have to figure it all out tonight," he said softly. "But you don't have to hide. Either. Not from us." I nodded, my throat tight. After he left, I sat in the dress for a long time, staring at my reflection. Who was I? The guy who drew comics and cracked jokes? Or the person in the mirror, bold and unapologetic? Maybe I was both. Maybe I didn't have to choose. The next week was a blur of awkward silences and stolen glances. Theo stopped playing his guitar in the living room, retreating to the roof where I could hear faint melodies drifting down. Marcus doubled down on his charm, leaving me coffee with smiley faces drawn on the cups. But his eyes held a question he didn't ask. Jamie was the only one who didn't push, but his sketches kept appearing, intricate drawings of me, sometimes in the dress, sometimes just as I was, with notes that made my heart ache. "You're enough." I started wearing the dress more, not just at home but outside, testing the waters. I'd pair it with my old sneakers, a weird mix of defiance and comfort, and walk through Brooklyn, feeling the stares but also the freedom. People whispered. Some smiled. Others looked away. But I felt alive in a way I never had. The dress wasn't just fabric, it was a key to a part of me I'd locked away. One evening, I came home to find Theo waiting in the living room, his guitar in his lap. He looked up, his eyes softening when he saw the dress. "You're keeping it up," he said. Not a question. "Yeah," I said, sitting across from him. "It feels right." He strummed a chord, the sound low and mournful. "I'm sorry about the other night. I've been in love with you for so long. Elliot, seeing you like this, it's like you're finally letting yourself be who you are. And it's beautiful." My chest tightened. Theo's words were raw, unguarded, and they hit me like a wave. Before I could respond, Marcus burst in, his face flushed from the cold. "Oh, great," he said, his tone sharp. "Theo's serenading you now." Theo stood, his guitar clattering to the floor. "You don't get to make this about you, Marcus." "It's not about me," Marcus shouted. "It's about Elliot. And you're acting like you've got some claim on him." I stood, my hands shaking. "I'm not a prize. I'm not something you win. I'm trying to figure out who I am. And you're making it harder." The room went quiet again, the weight of my words settling over us. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped, and Theo's shoulders slumped. I didn't wait for them to respond. I grabbed my coat and left, the dress swishing as I stormed out into the night. I wandered the city, the cold biting at my skin, until I ended up at a small park near the East River. The lights of Manhattan glittered across the water, and I sat on a bench, trying to make sense of the chaos inside me. I wasn't just Elliot anymore, not the version I'd known. but I wasn't sure who I was becoming either. And the way my roommates saw me, Theo's passion, Marcus's intensity, Jamie's quiet devotion was both a gift and a burden. When I finally went home, Jamie was waiting by the door, his eyes worried. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "I don't know what I'm doing, Jamie. I'm scared." He hesitated, then pulled me into a hug, his arms steady and warm. "You don't have to do it alone," he whispered. "We're messy, all of us, but we're here." For the first time that night, I felt like I could breathe. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. I kept wearing the dress, or other clothes. I'd started experimenting with skirts, scarves, anything that felt like an extension of the person I was uncovering. Each choice was a step toward something authentic, but it came with a cost. The apartment was a battlefield of unspoken feelings, and I was caught in the crossfire. Theo threw himself into his music, playing gigs at dive bars across Brooklyn. He'd invite me to come, his eyes hopeful, but I could see the strain in his smile. Marcus, meanwhile, doubled down on his law school applications, but he'd linger in the kitchen, asking me about my art with a softness that felt like an apology. Jamie was the constant, always there with a quiet word or a sketch that said more than he ever could out loud. But the tension between them was palpable, and I hated being the cause. One night, I decided to confront it. I called a house meeting, something we hadn't done since we fought over who kept leaving dishes in the sink. They sat on the couch, Theo with his arms crossed, Marcus leaning forward like he was ready to argue, Jamie fidgeting with a pen. "I can't keep doing this," I said, standing in front of them in a simple black skirt and my old band tee. "You're all acting like I'm something to fight over, and it's tearing us apart. We're supposed to be friends, family, even. But this isn't working." Marcus opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "Let me finish. I'm figuring out who I am. The dress. The clothes, it's not a phase or a prank. It's me. And I need you to respect that, not turn it into some competition." Theo's jaw softened, and he nodded slowly. "I get it, Elliot. I've been an idiot. I love you, and it's messing with my head." Marcus sighed, rubbing his face. "I'm sorry, too. I saw you that night, and it was like I was seeing you for the first time. I got carried away." Jamie looked up, his voice quiet but clear. "I don't want to fight. I just want you to be happy, Elliot. Whatever that means." Their words were a balm, but they didn't erase the complexity of what I felt. I cared about them, all of them, in ways I couldn't untangle. Theo's passion made my heart race. Marcus's charm drew me in, and Jamie's quiet devotion felt like home. But I wasn't ready to choose, if I even had to. I was still learning who I was. The next day, I started therapy. It was something I'd been avoiding, but I needed someone to help me sort through the noise in my head. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, listened as I spilled everything about the dress, my roommates, the way I felt both free and trapped. She didn't judge, just asked questions that made me dig deeper. "What does the dress mean to you?" she asked one session. I thought about it, tracing the hem of the skirt I was wearing. "It's like permission to be more than what I thought I had to be." She smiled. "Then keep exploring, and don't let anyone else define what that means." I took her advice, diving into my art with new energy. I started a series of self-portraits, some in the dress, some in my old clothes, each one capturing a piece of the puzzle I was assembling. My roommates noticed, and slowly, things started to shift. Theo began playing his guitar in the living room again, dedicating songs to me with a shy grin. Marcus stopped flirting and started listening, asking real questions about my art. Jamie kept leaving sketches, but now they were of us together laughing, talking, being us. But the tension wasn't gone. It simmered, waiting for a spark. That spark came at Theo's biggest gig yet. At a packed bar in Williamsburg. He begged me to come, and I showed up in a flowing blue dress, my heart pounding as I pushed through the crowd. Theo was on stage, his voice raw and powerful, singing a song I hadn't heard before. The lyrics were about transformation, about loving someone who was finding themselves, and I knew it was for me. After the set, he found me in the crowd, his face flushed with adrenaline. "Did you like it?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "It was beautiful," I said, and I meant it. For a moment, it was just us, the world fading away. Then Marcus appeared, his arm brushing mine as he handed me a drink. "Great show, Theo," he said, but his eyes were on me. "You look incredible tonight, Elliot." Theo's smile faded, and I felt the familiar tension creep back. Before I could say anything, Jamie was there, his hand lightly on my arm. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice urgent. I followed him outside. The cool night air a relief. "What's wrong?" I asked. He took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine. "I'm in love with you, Elliot. I have been for a long time, and I can't keep pretending it's just friendship." My heart stopped. Jamie, who'd always been my anchor, was laying himself bare, and I didn't know how to respond. Before I could, Theo and Marcus joined us, their faces a mix of frustration and fear. "Really, Jamie?" Marcus said, his voice sharp. "You're doing this now?" Theo stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Both of you, back off. Elliot doesn't need this." "Stop," I shouted, my voice echoing in the quiet street. "I can't do this anymore. I care about all of you, but I'm not ready for this. I need to figure out me first." The silence that followed was deafening. I turned and walked away, the dress trailing behind me, my heart a tangled mess of love and confusion. I spent the next few weeks pulling back, focusing on myself. I wore what felt right, sometimes the dress, sometimes jeans, sometimes a mix of both. I painted. I talked to Dr. Patel, and I started to understand that my identity wasn't something I had to pin down. It was fluid, evolving, and that was okay. The dress had been a spark, but the fire was me, burning brighter than I'd ever let myself before. My roommates gave me space, but they didn't disappear. Theo left me playlists, songs that spoke of growth and acceptance. Marcus started cooking dinner for all of us, his way of rebuilding what we'd lost. Jamie kept sketching, but now his drawings were of the four of us lying, arguing, living. Slowly, the apartment started to feel like home again. One night, I invited them to an art gallery where my self-portraits were being shown. I was nervous, my hands shaking as I stood by my work. A series of paintings that captured my journey: fear, joy, confusion, and strength. The dress featured in some, but not all, because it wasn't the whole story. It was just the beginning. Theo, Marcus, and Jamie showed up together, and for the first time in weeks, there was no tension, just pride in their eyes. They wandered through the gallery, lingering on each painting, and I could see them piecing together what I'd been trying to say. After the show, we ended up on the roof, the city sprawling below us. I wore the red dress, the one that started it all, but it felt different now, less like a statement and more like a choice. We sat in a circle, passing a bottle of wine, and I finally spoke. "I don't know where I'm going," I said, my voice steady, "but I know I'm not alone. You guys, you've seen me at my messiest, and you're still here. That means everything." Theo reached for my hand, his touch gentle. We're not going anywhere. Elliot, we love you however you are. Marcus nodded, his usual swagger gone. I was an idiot, thinking I could claim you. I just want you to be happy. Jamie smiled, his eyes bright. You're our family. That's enough. I looked at them, my heart full. I didn't have to choose, not between them, not between versions of myself. Love wasn't a competition. An identity wasn't a finish line. It was a journey. One I was walking with people who cared enough to stay. Even when it was messy. We stayed on the roof until the stars came out, talking about nothing and everything. The tension was gone, replaced by something stronger, understanding. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I'd face it as myself, unapologetically. The dress had been a dare, a spark, but the real transformation was in me, and in the family we'd built together. As we laughed under the New York sky, I realized the greatest prize wasn't being loved, it was loving myself enough to let others in. And that was a story worth telling.